without further ado, Rowan, I'm going to turn this over to you. We are so grateful you're here. Thank you for being here. And I will mute, and the floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Aubrey. I'm Rowan. I'm a drug addict and alcoholic. I was born in Humble, Texas, and I grew up there around till I was 9 years old. Don't remember much early on. Just remember like living in this house in Humble, hanging out with kids on the street every day. Just remember life being like very easy early on. And then right around when I was like 9 or 10, my dad told me that we would be moving to Austin so he could become a priest, and that he was going to seminary in Austin. I was very angry. I was upset. I felt like kind of like the world was being ripped from me. And I mean, this is the thing with all drug addicts and alcoholics, and that we hate change. So I moved to Austin, was really unhappy while I was there. Right when I started noticing a lot of like my depression and anxiety, like starting up, like ran away from school around like 10 or 11, had a lot of panic attacks, started going to a therapist that I hated. It just like, I don't know, just found myself very up and down a lot of the time, either very happy or completely miserable. Right towards the end of that, we were going to move back to Houston. And that's when I discovered alcohol for the first time. I was about 12 years old, and my dad would have these parties where he'd have like all these other people at seminary come over. And me and my friend Owen used to steal beers and sneak them upstairs and drink. Just like remember, like my immediate like thought was always like, this is it. Like, this is like the solution I was looking for. Like, this is what's going to solve like my anxiety, my depression. So we moved back to Houston, and that was when like me and my parents were kind of disconnected a little bit. Like I kind of started like living this lie when I was around them, and then doing things outside of that they were completely unaware of. Went to this middle school in Montrose, which is in Houston. That was when I like discovered weed for the first time, and like kind of got hooked on it. Was buying like the dab pens, like the weed vapes, using them pretty much every day. My parents were still pretty in the dark. And then like once I got to high school, it started to be like my entire life, and kind of controlled me a lot more. And it was a shit day if I didn't, oh, sorry, I don't know if I should cuss, but it was a bad day. If like I wasn't high or I wasn't drunk. And like I got in with this crowd of guys who that's all they did. Like all they did was get drunk and get high, and like started like just making my whole life surround these dudes just so I could get high whenever I wanted to. Like really used and manipulated them for that. Like didn't really enjoy being around them at all, but did really like the fact that like any one of us at any time would have drugs or alcohol. Around that time, my freshman year of high school, I went to this like random middle school football game as an excuse to get really drunk. And this was kind of like the first time my parents became aware of anything that was going on. I stole a bunch of liquor out of my parents' cabinet, got blackout drunk, went to a football game, threw up on this girl's shoes, came home, and like don't remember any of this, but was like sobbing in my mom's bed and just like very depressed. It just continued to get worse from there. A couple weeks after that, I tried crystal meth for the first time, and was hooked on it. I was also taken advantage, like sexually taken advantage of by the first guy who gave me crystal meth. And just became very put off by everyone in my life. Didn't know who I could be honest to. I tried telling the guy who I thought was my best friend. He called me a liar. And I just felt very alone. And at the time I was going to this church group called Happening, which is at Camp Allen, which is this place in Texas. And I would go, it was like once every season, it'd be like fall, winter, spring, there'd be a happening. And I met this girl named Hannah, became very close with her. And for a while there, she was the only real friend I had, the only friend who I wasn't friends with just to get drunk or high with. And that was kind of like my moment of like, the only real moment of like bliss I felt, or the only moment of like reality that I wanted to experience. As time went on, I kept doing more and more things to get my hands on drugs and alcohol. And also I definitely would say, like if it weren't for like me trying marijuana, there's no way I would have got my hands on crystal meth. Like it just became like I was smoking weed every day for so long, and it just stopped being enough. And so I just was instantly looking for the next thing, and for me that was meth. So then I started doing anything I could to get my hands on drugs and alcohol. I stole from people. I sold my body, and just I don't know, just did a lot of things I'm not really proud of. And that was my life for about a year and a half. And then that continued all the rest of my freshman year. And then sophomore year started. Instantly just like felt very disconnected from the guys at school, pretty much stopped talking to them entirely. October of my sophomore year, my friend Hannah passed away. She had a brain aneurysm in her sleep. And that just kind of was my breaking point. I started using enough drugs and alcohol every night, hoping that it would kill me. And I'd be pissed when I'd wake up. I'd stay up all night long, wouldn't talk to my parents anymore, would get home from school, immediately go to my room, get as high as possible. Like would stay up for 3 days in a row being on meth, and I would just have to use other drugs like Xanax, heroin, or alcohol to be able to fall asleep at night. And around that time, like I just completely stopped trying in school. Was just like not attempting to do anything in any of my classes. Started seeing this therapist in Houston. Wasn't honest with her. Wasn't telling her anything about what was really going on. And then I started driving. I was taking my learner's test, and there's a thing every day where I'd get in the car with my parents and they'd be like, "Are you high right now?" And I'd be like, "No." And I'd drive around with my parents high off my ass every day after school. And then I got into a car accident with my dad, and just continued to lie to his face that I wasn't high. And then I went into therapy one day, and my dad went through my bag while I was in there, and he found a weed pen in my backpack. And I came home, and I remember just like sobbing and like telling my dad that like I didn't know how to live life without that, like that life was meaningless without getting high or drunk. And a couple weeks later, I went to my first rehab, which was Menninger, in Houston. Clearly didn't want to be there. Just continue to talk about how much I wanted to get high and drunk. So they sent me to a wilderness program called Elements in Utah. and was just kind of like, just still didn't want it at all. Like just did a bunch of really dumb things. Ran away while I was there. Would like dumped all of the group's food in the fire because I was angry. And just like, I don't know, I just like didn't care at all. It's just things stopped mattering to me. And so from there, I was sent to Imbalance Ranch Academy in Arizona. Hated it there. Was there probably 3 or 4 months. It was a year-long program. But staff just sucked there. It was just one of the worst rehab experiences I had. One of the guys who was in my group there was molested by another guy who was there, and staff like told us that we were being bad friends if we like talked about it with staff or tried to bring it up or how we felt unsafe. And so like I just kind of went on a rampage while I was there, like broke a bunch of windows and like kicked in doors, set off a fire extinguisher, and was sent to the mental hospital in Arizona called Sonora. Begged not to go back there, like told staff there like that I really didn't feel safe there, and they sent me back anyways. And then one of my lowest moments happened in my addiction, where I just snapped and I attacked the lady who worked there, attempting to get her money. And I walked 30 miles to Cochise County, Arizona. I stole alcohol and got as messed up as I could. And then I was arrested, and had my first like real moment in years that like I really prayed. Just like broke down in my cell and like was just begging God to get me out of that situation. Because throughout that whole time when I did all those things at Imbalance, I was told by police officers that 16 was old enough to be tried as an adult in Arizona, and that with the charges I had, I was looking at 8 years in prison. And I just got really lucky, and the judge allowed me to go on house arrest and probation, and I went to another rehab called 5 in St. George, Utah. Loved it there, had a really good experience. Moved back in with my parents afterwards, and came back and found Cornerstone. And like for a while there, it just felt like I had like finally like had some sort of like solution, or like felt like there was something to life sober. Like the first time ever I felt happy being sober. And then I got a phone call from my old friend Owen that he was in Houston at U of H. And I was at Archway, which is a sober high school in Houston that I went to. And I just left campus, and I got in the car with him, and I got really high and went to his campus, and my mom called, and I just told her what happened, and she came and picked me up. And then for a while, it was just that. It was, I had to call my probation officer and tell her that I had gotten high, which was just like a humiliating experience for me. And from there, like that fear of like failing probation and going back to juvie just like was enough to keep me sober for 5 or 6 months. And for a while there, like things were good. Like I was at Archway with these guys, Nick and James, and like we always had like great times, and we'd get up to no good. Like just constantly like just doing a bunch of like really stupid shit and hanging out with each other. And like it was just like I was enjoying myself again. I felt like I could be a kid again. And then I met a girl, and it changed. And I started shutting off from everyone else in my life, and like really cared about this person. And she started using heroin again. I was lying about using meth. And that's when I was at Aubrey's house, and I threw up all over the guest bed, and I got honest with James that I'd been doing meth for the last month. And I went to the park in Houston. Just like felt defeated again, like felt like I had finally got a glimpse of what recovery was like. And then it was back to square one. And then the rest of the summer, it just like felt like, well, for a long time, it felt like I was just stuck in this cycle of getting 1 or 2 months and then relapsing. I got out of the park, and the girl I was with told me she was pregnant with my kid, and I lied to myself and told myself that was something I could stay sober for. And when that didn't end up happening, I started drinking again. Anything I can get my hands on. I was drinking hand sanitizer, rubbing alcohol, mouthwash, vanilla extract, just getting as drunk as possible every night. And like only really telling anyone that I was getting drunk when I had to. I moved in with Aubrey and James, and which I'm really grateful for, but I kind of put them through hell while I was there. I was just in probably one of the worst places mentally I was ever in. And just like kind of like wanted it, but didn't think it was possible for me. And so like there was a few nights where I got drunk at their house. I cut myself in their bathtub, and just like eventually couldn't stay there anymore because I wasn't attempting to really work a program or stay sober. So I moved in with this other guy, Max, who was in Cornerstone. Continued drinking while I was at his house. He caught me. At first, I lied to his face before telling him the truth, and then I moved in with this guy, Drew, in Cornerstone. Continued drinking while I was at his house, and then overdosed at his house, and went back to Vive in Utah. Got back, and like still wasn't really all there. And the girl I was dating someone else in the group. And I like went out, did a bunch of meth, did a bunch of Xanax, and overdosed with a bunch of dudes in Cornerstone surrounding me in my bed. And got sober again for 3 more months, and then overdosed again at an AA meeting in Humble. And just like really couldn't get the hang of it. Just like continuously would like work back to where I wanted to be. And then as soon as I got a little taste of what I wanted, I'd throw it all away again. Just because something in my brain told me it was worth it to get drunk or to get high. And I was given a bunch of work to do that I knew had helped me. And then as soon as I felt better, I'd stop doing it. And then getting high or drunk became an option again. So I was back in my parents' house after all this, and I told my mom one day, I told her I was leaving and I was just going to go get high. And I left the house, and don't remember having an intent to kill myself, but remember taking the first 20 Benadryl, and then woke up in the hospital and they told me I'd taken 300 Benadryl and had a suicide attempt. And that a stranger found me and picked me up and taken me to the hospital and saved my life. And I woke up and James was there next to me in the bed, and I just realized something needed to change, and that like this wasn't going to work out much longer, and I didn't want to die, because that was a reality. Is I'd just been given so many second chances and just missed death so many times that it was like I probably didn't have any more in me. So I went to Origins in South Padre Island and had an amazing experience. Worked the 12 steps with a temp sponsor who was there. Just felt super connected to the program again, felt really connected to God again. I came back and like just had a new level of willingness. Reworked the steps with my sponsor who lives here. And then time went on and I just kept doing the work, and it continued working for me. Like just graduated high school, just got my car back. I have 9 months sober. I'm sponsoring other dudes. My life is really good, and I've like things that used to like take me back out immediately. I've gotten through sober. Like my Aunt Sherry passed away, and I've had a lot of like trauma from my past come up, and like those are all those are things that definitely I would have gotten high over just as an excuse to get high in the past, and that's not the case today. And there really isn't anything doing that for at least right now, at least for today. There's no reason for me to get high, drunk. That's a really good feeling to have that obsession and that desire removed from me. So thank you.
Thank you, Rowan. I felt like I held my breath through that whole testimony. Because, you know, I watched Rowan, and I know his parents well, and I love all of them. And Rowan, can you talk a little bit about what your program looks like now? Where do you live? And I mean, you don't have to give any names or anything. What does your program look like today?
So I'm in a sober living house in Houston, which is basically I live in a house with a bunch of other dudes who are trying to stay sober. And like there's regular drug testing, and I have to have a sponsor and be working the steps, or else I'm not allowed to live here anymore, which is just like a layer of accountability that I need. I have a sponsor who I work with regularly, and I meet with at least once a week, which helps me. And then I sponsor other dudes, which looks like giving time throughout my week to like meet up with these guys and take them through the steps, and just give them what I was given, and like helping those people is what keeps me sober today. Like I get so much out of helping another person.
And how often do you attend meetings? Do you go every day still?
No, I did when I first got into the house, and now I probably go 4 or 5 times a week.
Okay. And then can you talk somewhat about Cornerstone? You're in Cornerstone, so you're in a sober living, but you're also in Cornerstone second stage, and you are on a committee. Can you talk about that? What that looks like, what your responsibilities are?
Yeah, so I'm in second stage in Cornerstone. And basically that's just like the next logical step for, I guess, anyone who's at that level, recovery wise. Basically it's like looking at more of the life stuff, like relationships, job, school, just like a lot more of like how, now that like it's easier to maintain my sobriety, what it looks like now to balance that with these other opportunities that I'm being given, and how to remain grateful for those opportunities. And then with committee, is basically a group of people in Cornerstone who get together, and we plan functions for like some of the newcomers in the group, and we're in charge of like reach out and getting to know the parents in the group, and having contact, and helping with the connection among everyone.
And then did you just do the yoga challenge too? Were you doing that?
Yes. Yeah. Well, it's currently still happening, but yeah, we're doing this yoga challenge in second stage right now, where it's 4 times a week. We do hot yoga for 6 weeks. It's been super cool for me. Just like I show up 4 times a week, and I try to give it as much as I can. It's very intense. But that, like, the yoga piece actually ties in a lot to like my spirituality, and helps me feel a lot more connected to the group as a whole. And we have this like I guess it's a partnership with this studio called Big, and they help us a lot, and they give us scholarships. Yeah.
And are some of the parents in Cornerstone doing the yoga challenge too?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
And then can you talk a little bit about one-on-ones and how you work on connecting with the other peers and the parents? Can you
Okay.
talk about what a one-on-one is?
Oh yeah. So we do one-on-ones in Cornerstone, which is basically you grab someone, you pull them to the side, and you just check in about everything that's going on in like your head currently, and they check in. Basically just talk about like where you're struggling, what character defects are coming up, like just whatever you feel like you need to talk about. And it just helps to like build the relationships between people.
Yeah. And then can you describe what a winner one-on-one is?
Oh, a winner's one-on-one is you hold hands with someone and you um, look into their eyes for 5 minutes, and then you would say why they're a winner for you. And a winner is just like a healthy person in your life, or like someone who's good for you to be around. And then you share an emotional risk, which is just something that's hard for you to talk about, or something you don't talk about very often, that just like creates an emotional connection, and then you pray together.
Yeah, it's one of the challenging things we do in Cornerstone, when you have to hold hands with somebody you're maybe not very close with, and stare into their eyes for 5 minutes. We literally set a timer. But they always say the opposite of addiction is connection. So there's a lot of connection there. And then one last question, then we'll open it up to the group for questions. Can you describe some of the functions that you help plan, and give us maybe one or two of your favorite functions?
That's hard. I mean, so the functions are just every Saturday we get together, we do some like crazy activity, just as a group. My favorites are probably the PowerPoint function, which is like you create a PowerPoint about whatever you want, and it's just like you try to make other people laugh. I also really like Broom Ball, which is like a game on the ice where you just like run on the ice and hit a ball into a goalpost, and you like tackle people. But yeah, we do a ton of fun stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's the best part of recovery, is they call it enthusiastic recovery, and the parents and the kids get to have fun. And sometimes the kids go off and do fun stuff by themselves, and sometimes we're involved, and they let the kids be kids in a sober way. So it's cool. So thank you so much, Rowan. I appreciate you. I love you. I'm so proud of you. Oh, one thing you need to announce: what just happened a few weeks ago? What did you accomplish? You didn't talk. I don't think you mentioned that.
I said I graduated high school.
Oh yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah. You just graduated high school. So super proud. Congratulations. Okay, and does anybody, I can't really see everybody because I'm on my phone, so go ahead and unmute if you want to say something or ask a question.
Mary here.
Oh,
Okay, we'll go to Laura, and then we'll go to Mary, because I think I heard you both speak.
okay, thank you. This is Laura. One of the questions I had for you, Rowan, is you said now that you're in recovery, when you have disruptions in your life, you know how to handle them to where you don't revert back to the drugs. Can you explain a little bit more, elaborate more on that?
Yeah. So the 12-step program has promises, and one of the promises of the program is that the desire to use or get drunk will go away. And that's 100% been true for me. It is just through working this program, like the thought to get drunk or high rarely comes up. And when it does, it's like very easy for me to move on from. So even when those hard situations do come up, my first reaction at this point like is not to get drunk or high. It's usually like to call someone who I know is good for me to talk to, or like to pray or hit a meeting. It's easier today for me to do other things before that, and that's honestly rarely comes up for me anymore. Is even the thought of getting drunk or high.
Good question, Laura. Thank you. Okay, I think Mary was unmuting next.
Yeah. Thank you so much for a great meeting, as always, Aubrey. I just want to say, I give praise or thanks to your higher power, Ronan, that you're here today to tell that story to me as a mom and to give me such hope at such a young age, that strength and courage. And oh boy, I am so happy you're around to tell us that. And thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I agree, and I bet you everybody else here agrees. Thank you, Mary.
I have a question actually about your hot yoga method. That sounds really interesting. What is it? What's hot about it? Is it a steam room or?
It's just a room we do yoga in, and they turn the heat way up.
Oh, wow.
It's just they put it at like 100 degrees, and we do yoga.
Oh, that's awesome. So will they always continue to have exercise then as part of your recovery? Like after that, you said hot yoga was for 6 weeks or something, or?
Yeah. Well, so we always do yoga on Tuesdays, even without the challenge.
Okay.
And then a big Cornerstone is big on like the staying active part of things. Like we do yoga, and then there's a mountain biking group, which I don't do, but a lot of people in the group do.
Awesome. And that program you were in Utah, that was it Vibe? Is that what it was called?
Yes.
Did they emphasize a lot of outdoor activity as well? Or was that why they were so great? Or
I think Vive, honestly, it was just the first rehab I had been to where like it seemed like the staff genuinely cared about me.
oh,
And so it was just like a completely different feel there than anything.
yeah. Wonderful.
Good question. Hot yoga's crazy. I can tell you that for sure. You feel really good when you're done.
Can I ask a question?
Go ahead, David. Thank you.
Hi, Rowan. Thank you so much for doing this. You are so awesome. I'm just amazed and so impressed to listen to you. Couple of things. One thing is I wanted to hear if you could speak a little more about the South Padre Island experience that you had, because that seemed like that was somewhat pivotal for you, at least if I understand you correctly. And then the other thing is I'd like to hear more about what it's like for you to sponsor others.
So with South Padre, it was amazing experience. It was right on the beach. We went on beach walks every day. Like the staff there were all dudes in recovery who like really understood what I was going through. And there was like especially like 2 staff there who like had really struggled with meth specifically, who I really connected with and related to. And I was there, and part of South Padre was the first rehab I went to after turning 18. So it was the first time it really felt like my choice to go to rehab. It was the first time I was like, okay, I need this, and this is what I want to do. And then with sponsoring other dudes, it's just like a really awesome moment when I get to like see the light come on in some other guy's eyes, and like I see him like feel exactly how I felt like 6 months ago when I was doing the same thing. And like I just see it click for him. And it just like putting an effort to truly just help someone else just makes me feel good.
Thank you.
Good questions.
Can I say something?
Of course, Renee. Hello.
Hi. I, like everyone, I am, and I know we're all so happy for you. And your journey has been wonderful. And as said before, your strength and courage. and determination. But I wanted to ask you, do you have any ideas? Because you had stated that if you didn't start using marijuana, you probably wouldn't have needed to take that path. I know you know that legalization is getting all over the place. And they may do it federal legalization. Do you have any ideas of anything that you could think of that to prevent this? Because it's much easier to prevent than to go through what you and other people go through. Thank you.
I think the hardest part of that really is for me and everyone else I know who's gotten sober, for the most part, really has had to come to that for themselves. And so I think once you've used any drugs or alcohol and you are an addict or an alcoholic, there's a different reaction in your mind and body. And so I think it's like once someone uses marijuana or alcohol or anything and they are a drug addict or an alcoholic, it's really going to be whenever they decide to quit. And that's the harsh reality of it is it is really hard just to get in the way and stop it. And I honestly, I don't really know what that would look like.
Hi there. I just have a question as a parent of a teenager who's experimenting with marijuana, and, you know, gotten in trouble for it and stuff. What are some things that you wished your parents would have done or wouldn't have done that would have maybe helped you along the journey?
Honestly, I think I wish my parents had gotten into Al-Anon and Cornerstone sooner. Because there was a while where they knew what was going on and they really tried to help the best way they knew they could by sending me to rehab. But I think the codependency piece was still there for them. And I think if that had changed earlier, I think they would have been able to help me more.
Thank you.
I came in late. I'm so sorry, but Rowan, you're an inspiration, and my question is, was it hard for you to go back home after recovery?
In what way?
Well, just an adjustment. My son is in a rehab right now, and you know, like you're saying with codependency, was it hard for you? Were there triggers when you got home that you were tempted or wanted, you know, the cravings? And how did you deal with that?
I mean, I think, yeah, that was there. A lot of the times, and the way I dealt with that this time is I didn't go home. I went into sober living. And that's not the case for everyone, but that is what I needed. Is I just, where I was at, I couldn't go home at the time, and it just wasn't going to work.
Thank you.
It's such a hard piece of recovery, you know. We want our kids home with us, and sometimes it can and sometimes it can't.
Can I ask a question?
Absolutely. Hi.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, Rowan. You're amazing. Thank you for sharing your story. Can you elaborate more on the codependency piece from your parents? What were the triggers for you? What was, you know, if you can elaborate more, that would be wonderful.
Yeah. So for me, it was a lot of it was the control aspect, and the more they did what they thought was helping, which was like trying to really steer where my life was going, or like push me a certain direction, the more I wanted to go against that, and the more I wanted to do my own thing, and the more appealing things like getting high or like just being really reckless just was appealing to me. And so it like it was just like they're their own people and I'm my own person, and it doesn't work when that's not the forefront.
You didn't feel respected towards your own goals, or your own person and your choices.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Rowan, could I share a moment where I mean, I'm really codependent on Rowan. Like I like really close to him. And can I share a moment that was hard on me?
Yes, you can.
So Rowan was hosting in my home. He wasn't there that long, and I could tell he wasn't being honest and that he was really struggling and he was not really working a program. And you know, I can see much more dishonesty in other kids than I can my own kids. And I was, when you're hosting, and a lot of families host in Cornerstone, your main job is to hold the kids accountable. And that's really hard when you're codependent on somebody. So I had gotten to my third time I was going to call what we call a shot or a consequence with Rowan. And I knew I needed to call it. And I had called my sponsor about it first, and I'd called the counselor about it because I didn't want to do it. And because I knew he was really struggling. His reaction to that, me calling that shot on him, I was scared what was going to happen. And I used the skills that I was taught, and I went in and I told him, you know, this is your third shot, so you're going to have to find another host family because you didn't follow the rules here. And I said it, and I told him how much I love him and that, you know, capable. And I left the room. You know, there was no open for discussion or anything. And when that happens, whether it's between a host parent and a host kid, or it's a mom and dad and their kid, and you're holding them accountable, like, to me, that's the hardest part of recovery. And because when I walked away, then I'm like, okay, let go, let God. And then Rowan's there processing what just happened. And I don't want to speak for you, Rowan, but I think there, you know, there was like a feeling of shame, and he wasn't ready to handle that at the time. And so his reaction to that was he did self-harm. And that was really, really hard, you know? So, but within the community, so that was, you know, I had to process my codependency. I didn't want to call the shot on him. I didn't want to do it, but I did it. And so there was some times after that things got worse. And then I watched Rowan choose and to work his way out of that. And I just kind of want to give that example where that codependency plays into recovery process. And Rowan, do you want to add anything to that? Did I represent that correctly on your perspective?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, yeah, it was really hard, really, really hard. So. But we're grateful to get through that. And he built confidence through that too, through all the accountability and stuff, not just that experience, it's the whole community with his parents.
I have another question. Rowan, are you able to have, well, what's your relationship like now with your parents?
I have a really great relationship with my parents today. I think the distance was good for us. I meet with them. We do family dinner every Thursday. I do yoga with my mom all the time. I really enjoy being around them today. Like I rarely dread seeing my parents anymore, or like having to have a conversation with them. Like I enjoy being around them. Yeah, like me and my dad went to a concert together a couple weeks ago, and we all went to a concert as a family, and it just feels like it's in a really good place today.
Thank you.
And if I can just add too, like, we talk about Cornerstone a lot, and that's because that's what we found our hope and healing. Other programs out there, but I just want to add too, since I'm really close to Rowan's parents too, and my son James rents a room from them and lives in their home, rents a room and does his own thing, but also they're allowing me to stay in their home next week when I go to Houston to graduate from Cornerstone. So when we say we're family, and it's like, I'm really grateful because it's a give and take relationship, and Rowan's mom and I and a couple other moms, we have this tradition where we do the painting. We go to one of those places and we paint and we have a lot of fun, and we get to do that next Sunday again too. So a lot of hard work, but there's a lot of fun, and a lot of connection. I'm grateful for them.
I have a quick question about siblings. Do you have any brothers or sisters? And how did they? No, you don't. Okay. Maybe that made it a little easier because, there wasn't sort of the collateral damage, I guess, of having to get them through recovery too.
I don't know if it was easier.
Yeah.
I think it was probably harder with it just being me for my parents, because I don't know. I guess I don't really want to speak for them, but I think it's like if I'm their only child, they're probably really worried about losing me.
Yeah, good point. Well, James has done okay, right, Aubrey?
Yeah. So James, everybody who doesn't know, is my youngest son, and him and Rowan are very close, and James is very close with Rowan's parents. And Rowan's been there for James, and James has been there for Rowan. And James, I'm really proud of him too with the recovery work he's done. Rowan was overdosing one night, and I hope this is okay that you shared it in your talk, Rowan, on Benadryl. I think it was Benadryl, and James and I went to pick him up, and Rowan couldn't even walk, and I watched James pretty much, and you got to understand, Rowan, are you 6'4"? Are you?
Yes, 6'4".
6'4", and James is about 6'4" too. And I watched James pretty much just put his arms around Rowan, pick him up, and we couldn't get him in my truck. So there was other Cornerstone kids there. So James got him into this pickup truck, and then we surrounded Rowan with other kids because he couldn't sit up. And so they packed him in, and then we got him to the ER, and then, his parents met us there. But that love and that support that happened that night, and we're just so grateful Rowan made it through that. You do draw a lot of strength, especially when you see the youth love each other and be there for each other. And James and I were not at that meeting that night. It was the other Cornerstone kids that called and said, hey, he's not right, something's wrong. They didn't know what was wrong with him. And that as we were driving there, he was progressively getting worse because he had taken a bunch of Benadryl. So we were glad to get him there. And, I was on the phone with him, like, if he keeps getting worse, call 911, and stuff. So that team effort to watch James interact with Rowan and Rowan interact with James, and anybody who watched the Nick's testimony too, like, it's been amazing to watch these young people love each other, be there for each other, and hold each other accountable. The parents aren't the only ones in the program holding kids accountable. The kids hold each other accountable, and the parents hold each other accountable. Scott, did you want to say something? Here comes Scott.
Hi, Rowan. I wonder if you could say a little bit about how you feel about the future in this moment, and how you handle or you know, how you engage thoughts about kind of what's coming next. I'm not asking what is coming next. I'm just wondering how you handle, you know, any kind of pressure or whatever about, you know, the future from today.
I mean, I try not to think about the future as much as possible. I mean, I have like goals and things that I want to happen in the future, but all that really matters is right now. And it's really easy for me to get in my own head or start falling off again when I'm either thinking about the past or the future all the time.
I guess this is a question for Scott. I mean, do you feel that sometimes you've had sort of almost a PTSD from the experience that you went through, that you get, you know, I guess reactions that are scary as you worry about your son?
Yes, I think that's for sure part of it. Both, I think, you know, we get to certain circumstances and it makes me nervous or wonder, you know, and how it's going to be different this time, or if it is. But that's also true for myself. And you know, I'm in recovery too, and so I have as much PTSD wondering how I'm going to be different in a situation or circumstance that maybe brings up a memory or whatever, as I am, you know, maybe from time to time worried or at least, you know, triggered by a similar circumstance that, you know, that I know Rowan went through.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Sally, did you want something or ask a question?
Yeah, no, I just like, before time is up, I want to thank Rowan. Rowan, this is so important for everybody here tonight that hears you, and for you, my opinion, for you too, for your recovery to share like this. Just the benefits continue to roll out into the future. I have many years myself as an Al-Anon and experience in my family with the effects of the disease of addiction, and I know from experience how important this is. That what we're doing tonight, what you're doing for us, and what this does for you. And thank you very much for sharing.
Thank you.
I should say thank you, Aubrey, also. Aubrey, for what you do here, for what you've brought together tonight.
Well, I am so grateful to do it. And actually, I didn't ask Rowan to do this. He just called me up and said, I want to share. And I was like, yeah, you know, of course. It's amazing, you know. Oh yeah, everybody's saying thank you. You rock. That Collier, Crystal Collier lives in Houston, Rowan. She's amazing. You guys should meet sometime.
Yeah, I've actually been in a hot yoga class with you, dude, but you didn't actually know.
Okay.
Crystal, do you want to come with us next week? We're doing a celebration class on Tuesday.
Please, yes,
Okay.
give me a ring. Let me know.
Okay, we'll invite you. It was good.
Okay.
Just recommendations you have for parents.
Recommendation for parents. My first recommendation is if you're not currently working the steps, to work the steps. And then my second recommendation is to do this for you and not for that person.
And then what are your two recommendations for a youth or a young adult who might have some kind of self-destructive behavior like using drugs?
To get into the program and work the steps, and also just to, I guess, kind of start being more aware of the damage you're causing.
Aubrey, I have a question.
Yes.
Rowan, how did you decide to go to another place? What was it, halfway house, or and because if a loved one is going to go home and it's not going to work out, but they do have to be committed, right, to not using, and and following those rules. So I guess who helped you with that?
With getting into Halfway House.
Yes.
So I was at Origins, and the staff there told me that with people over 18, like a very small percentage of adults who move back into with their parents after rehab stay sober, and they recommended that I go to Bodine. And before that, before I went to Origins, my counselor at Cornerstone, Kirk, told me that if I was going to stay sober, I either needed intensive outpatient or I needed to get into a long-term sober living situation. So I chose sober living.
Okay. And how old are you now?
I'm 18.
You're 18. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanne. Okay, excellent job, Rowan. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.